Hello everyone, welcome back to D20 Sundays. I'm your host as always, Ian, the part-time Dungeon Master. So, today's story is essentially about a very recent moment in one of the campaigns that I run. In fact, it's the crime campaign that I run. It's essentially in the same world as the Sariskin campaign on my channel, but this is more for me and a few of my friends to where we just kind of cut loose and have a bit of fun. So, a lot less serious and definitely not worthy of being recorded and definitely not appropriate for YouTube. So, we'll leave it at that. But as far as the story, well, that's kind of a fun part. You see, the players had spent all day essentially babysitting this one zealous paladin and his SWAT team who came to town because they know the history of this paladin. Essentially, if he senses that there's a little bit too much crime, he's going to start his own cleansing fire to get rid of all the crime and corruption. He will turn the town upside down by any means necessary. So the players are essentially like, okay, we can't be letting that happen, so we're going to essentially go with him and like investigate with him and be kind of deter him from like looking too much into things. And for the most part, they've done that. And well, it's been very interesting watching them try this. But at the same time, the players have been trying to start their own crime campaign, or their own crime family. It's not been going so well. In fact, they're very terrible at this. But that's neither here nor there. That's not what the story's about. No, it's not about that. It's not about how they left the paladin to go search through the sewers while the paladin went and did some other investigations on his own. Or how they fought against 20 were-rats and the gnoll that they fought against, and almost 3 of them died too. Because there's 20 were-rats and a gnoll who was essentially using some special abilities and some very nice magical weapons. So you see the gnoll and these 2 other individuals are known as rogue inquisitors. They are inquisitors of the same order as the paladin as well as one of the players, but they've strayed away from the path, and from what they can tell, they are trying to start kind of like that cleansing fire to come through the town, and they seem kind of happy that this paladin has shown up, this paladin that it's known for doing that. So, after dealing with that whole mess, as far as like the gnoll and the were-rats, they, have a lovely dinner with the paladin and his team, talking about some other strategies as to where they might find the others, and then they all kind of go home. And the Inquisitor of the party happens to go into his room, hear his door close behind him, and across through the window, across the road, into another house, he can see a man tied up with a bag over his head, and the man's tied up to a chair. And he feels a knife pressed up against him, and a familiar voice. It's one of the other Inquisitors. In fact, it's one of the rogue Inquisitors that they've been hunting, as they've got history together. And she tries to essentially sweet-talk him into shooting his crossbow and killing the man across the way. Essentially trying to sweet-talk him into joining her and the other one, and taking Zook's place, essentially. It doesn't really work, but, nonetheless. She escapes through the window and he chases after her, and the other players start trying to, chase after her as well. Except for one. The half-orc, who, felt bad for the guy that's tied up across the way, so he goes over to untie him. On his way over, because it's a 2-story house, he opens the front door and sees that there are tripwires, like spider webbing, all across the floor. And he's like, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. What are they connected to? Bombs? No, that's really not good. So he, tiptoes his way through, because he got a nat 20 on his perception, so I let him tiptoe his way through. And he got up to the guy, freed him, and then, went out the window and climbed down. Yeah. By the time the rest of the party, all got back together, they, because they lost track of the one, her name was Zala, they lost track of her. And the player Inquisitor, he was like, well, crap. But they all got back together, and the 2 rogues of the party, Varys and Beaumouge. Varys is I think he's half-elf, and Beaumouge is a hobgoblin. Well, the two of them, they say like, hey, we should probably disarm these traps, but we should probably also, tell like the guards and the people in the neighboring houses, so that way we can evacuate them. And then the leader of the party, good old Edgar, says, no, 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 do it as quietly as possible, and then we can steal the bombs for ourselves. And Babuj and Varys are like, sounds like a great idea. So the two of them get to work, and Andre, the half-orc who spotted the man and found the traps, he kind of stands guard with them. Make sure no one wanders in and actually sets them all off. So I tell them, it's like, okay, I want you both to roll a sleight of hand. There's 16 bombs, and you're essentially disarming them with your thieves' tool. You need a DC 13 to, cut the wires to 8 of them. So you both need to get DC 13s to cut your 8. No, your 8. Varys has to cut his 8. Bamush has to cut his 8. Varys got a 17. He went through his 8 like he was using a pair of scissors and as a scalpel and just finally cut through all of his, no problem. He turns around to Bamuj and sees Bamuj's hand is shaking as it went to cut the wire, but the wire was already slack. He got a 10. But with his saving face ability, because both Andre and Varys were there, he got a 12. Not good enough. I rolled that he got through 2 of his traps before he set the 3rd one off. Oh boy. So, and as they all make their dexterity saves, Varys says, I glared daggers at Bamuj, wondering how the hell did he fuck this up. And Bamuj replies with, Bamuj glares daggers at Bamuj, wondering how he fucked this up. And Andre declares, I jump out the window, clutching my chicken Alice as I dive into the road to get away from the explosion. Andre was the only one who made his dexterity save. Bamuj and Varys got essentially rocketed, launched from the house into their front yard, because they were right across the street from it. And they landed in the bushes in their yard. All the windows in the nearby houses got shattered out. In fact, the 2 neighboring houses right next to the house that exploded also got severely damaged. And once again, Varys came close to dying. This is the 2nd time now. Bamuj came close to dying. And Andre, if there was just a little bit more damage to him, and if he didn't make his save... Actually, no, if he didn't make his save, he would have been knocked out. But thankfully he made his save, so, he was fine. But he had to pick up both of them and run them to the nearest church in order to get them healed as quickly as possible. Why? Well, the 2 other party members, Vordel, the cleric, inquisitor, and Edgar, the ranger, both went elsewhere to essentially sleep. And it's just funny to me, because it's like, oh, well, you guys have done good, because, now Titus the Paladin thinks, oh, this town, once we get, rid of these rogues, it's in good hands. But now there's been a terrorist attack. And a house got blown up. In fact, 2 houses got severely damaged. People were hurt. Titus is not so confident so more. Yeah. But yeah, I figured I'd share that with you. The idea of, like, the 2 rogues, they had one job, and that was to disarm the traps as quietly as possible. And they would have, it would have been so much better if they got the guards involved to help them. It would have been so much better if they got the guards at least to evacuate the neighboring houses. But no, that did not happen. So yeah, thankfully the 2 of them didn't die from massive damage, and Andre was able to carry them to the healer to get them, brought back from the brink of death. Can't wait for the next session. Anyways, that's it for this D20 Sundays. I hope you enjoyed this small little story, and I'll catch you next time.